Hi everybody and welcome to Love Speaks Love. I am your host Denise and my beautiful guest today is David Maria. Oh, I may just have to turn this down. And welcome to Love Speaks Love. Mute that. Okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Denise. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Your voice is so soothing. It's one of the most soothing voices I think I've ever heard. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to say that.
No, I actually, in the late 90s, had an opportunity to become an on-screen announcer, one of the talent for CNN.
Oh, really?
I was selling magazine subscriptions during a recession. It's the only job that I could find. I ended up calling some woman that was the head of talent, and she wanted to fly me to Atlanta for an on-screen interview. To this day, I wonder why I didn't take them up on it. I knew it wasn't my path. And at that time, they were, all of their on-screen talent, they were the most handsome and beautiful men and women that you can imagine. It's not like today's talent where they're just people and they have skills. You know, so I said no, but she did it just based on my voice.
And you're so in the right line of work as well.
So being on CNN is definitely not a career path for me.
Yeah, it's a little bit in contrast to what you're doing now, hey? I'm just sharing this out. Why my attention is here. So just to, I'll let you introduce yourself as well. And I've put a bit of an introduction. I've put your bio on the post. But I came across you when you were on with Shanine. First of all, you're a friend of mine on Facebook, but I hadn't really encountered any of your work or I don't think any of your posts either. And I got the nudge to watch the show with Shanine. And it was a very, very soothing experience for one thing. And the energy was so strong. And I did go to your website at the time. And I think I just missed, maybe it was, I can't remember at what point I looked at your website, but it wasn't in time for that first one that Shanine went to. But then when you were on with Kathy Mason, and thank you to both Shanine and Kathy, I checked out your page and instantly got the nudge to join in with what you're doing on Saturday. So before we actually go into the questions, I'm just going to, while people are joining us, I'm just going to go through the normal routine at the beginning of the show, which is in alignment with the name of Love Speaks Love. And I know that you're completely in your heart space all the time, but I'm going to go through the motions anyway.
Let's qualify that all the time is a misnomer. I have my moments. But when it comes to the teachings, when it comes to classes, when it comes to sessions, always, always.
I still can't imagine you being triggered. I can't imagine you with road rage.
I didn't say that I get triggered, although I do get triggered. Yes, I still get triggered. I'm human just like everybody else. There's no question about that. They're less frequent than they ever have been, as most people might know about me. But I do have my moments. We all have those moments. You know, sometimes we're way up here, and other times we're taking a deep dive into what seems like endless manure. But there we are.
Nicely put. Okay, so I invite us to bring our awareness to our heart space. And let us all take a few deep breaths in and let us breathe love into our beautiful hearts, into our beautiful bodies.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
As you're breathing in, each breath that you take, you come to center more and deeper into your heart. And the deeper that you settle, the wider your heart field opens. And if you can feel this, there is a sphere of crystalline light, very translucent, that is forming around not only each of you's individual hearts, but we are also in a group. So within the context of that group, we are standing in a circle. And in the middle of us, as we breathe, that crystalline sphere with each breath that we take collectively is growing larger and larger until it is bigger than who we are as a group, and we are actually inside of it. This is light from the I Am presence, and it's a beautiful container to be in.
Beautiful. And let us all just really bask in that beautiful energy. And thank you, that's a really beautiful visualization that I have quite clearly in my mind's eye. And extending our heart awareness to the crystalline diamond heart of the earth. Extending our heart awareness out to the sun. And source creator. Recognizing that we are all in one unified field of love. And whether you're present with us watching live in this now moment, or watching the replay or on YouTube, in a future now moment, we're all together now. Anything you would like to add, David?
Just that if you're watching this in the future, you're present here now.
Beautiful, thank you.
No, thank you.
Really hard to open my eyes right now. So, you've been, would you say, conscious pretty much your whole life? Have you been, how did you?
No. No. I've lived the normal human life of falling completely asleep. I come through a familial lineage that was pretty violent. Gone through a lot of physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse. Sank into very heavy drug use for maybe 15 years. Began to come out of it, and thought I had found a viable path to walk, which turned out to not be true. In '96, I lost everything and went back to Idaho to live with my mother for a little while until I got back on my feet. Because when I say everything, I mean I lost everything. I had a change of clothes. That was it.
Wow.
That was the sum total of my possessions, and rebuilt everything. And then embarked probably 10 years ago on a really, for me, really strict regime of daily meditation without fail. subscribing to the meditate for at least a half an hour every day. And if you're too busy to do that, then meditate for an hour. And that really helped propel things forward. I had a major awakening in 2011, but that was just an awakening. That does not mean that you have embodied and fully grounded and anchored that awakening into your body. And it's only been, I'm 75 now, and last year was on my birthday, it was the first birthday I've ever celebrated actually being in the body, because it had never been safe. And even though really beautiful souls like Nikki Hamid in New Zealand contacted me one time and helped me with a grounding piece to come into my body, it still took me another 8 years, 9 years to really fully begin to be here physically in the body. So no, it's been a long journey, and I haven't even remotely been close to awake all of it.
Wow.
That's a more recent occurrence.
So what kind of, so you started meditating in 96, like how did you get yourself out of that spot? Were you meditating already, or was that all kind of new to you?
I've been meditating in one form or another most of my life. This was the first time that I really sat down and said, this is a dedicated practice, that I do this every day before I do anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So I just got the clear message that this is what will do it. This is what will help you with the turn. So that's what I did.
And were you receiving downloads when you were meditating? Were you connecting with your higher self or with any beings at that time?
I get downloads constantly. Sometimes, especially recently, as you may well know, they're 24 hours a day right now, it seems like. Historically, they have, well, say go back to 2012. We used to get these big waves come through, and then we would get approximately another month to where we could, we'd get flattened, and we'd have a month to be able to integrate what just came in. And then another one would come, and now it's like a month. Geez, that's an eternity. No, the next one will be here in 30 seconds. That's what it seems like now. It's just a continuous stream of this highly charged, very amplified energy that's coming to us. But yes, I've always gotten downloads. I had some major ones in 2011 that just seemed to be nonstop. I had one that went on for almost 9 hours straight.
Wow.
So, and I don't know what that means though.
And were you connecting with any, are there any ascended masters that you're particularly affiliated with, or would you say it's actually all an aspect of you?
I think everything is an aspect of us. So when we talk about our high selves or encountering, most of the time, not always, but when we talk about most of us talk about having guides or whatever, those are just higher aspects of ourselves that we haven't yet embodied down here in the physical vessel. So, but that's just my perspective. But yes, beings come. I have visitations occasionally from beings that there's no way that I can describe them. They're so far beyond anything in my conscious awareness of what beings can be that I stumbled, I stuttered with attempting to put words to them. I feel who they are, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of being able to describe it to another person.
I find it really interesting that at where we're at now, because in a lot of ways, kind of the spiritual information that you learn as you go on your journey. So for me, for example, I started connecting with angels quite soon in my journey. And I don't think I would have trusted them if someone would have said that's actually an aspect of you, or, and it's like we have to get this information. It's like a lot of the information that we've been told, now we're kind of finding a deeper truth. And it's not that those things are wrong exactly, but they're like stepping stones to a higher truth, to a higher kind of awareness, a higher knowledge. And I find it really interesting. There seems to be so much now, like what you just said about, you know, spirit guides, they're actually you. There's so much of that occurring now that you're kind of looking at everything that you thought you knew, all the truths that you thought you were aware of, and a lot of them are just kind of falling away. And it's like we know nothing.
If everything is one, and it is, then there is nothing that is outside of who you are. It's not possible.
Yeah.
That kind of stops the conversation a little bit.
So tell me about the Eden template, because I know that was, or I believe that was a journey for you to, as you say, embody, like you're an embodiment of the Eden template now. Can you share anything about that journey, anything that you wish to share, like how that started, and what that was like for you, and what the Eden template is as well?
The Eden template is a transmission that came to me after being called through dreams to go to Africa, to Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going with two other people, Beth Courier, who is from Kenya but currently living in Ireland, and also Teresa Lutnager. And it turns out that we didn't know this to begin with, but that's what it turned out to be, that we were going to an annual prayer vigil that circumambulates around Mount Kenya every year. It's been going on for tens of thousands of years. It was shut down when the British colonized Kenya, because that's what they did, is shut down things like that. It only restarted happening again in 2008. And I now know that I wasn't just called, but I was also sent, because there were things that were given to me that I received while I was there, but there were things that I also brought. Much along the line that if somebody teaches somebody something, two people learn. So it doesn't matter what the exchange is. There's always an exchange of information. We all have codes. We all have codes to share with each other, whatever it is, whatever they are. So in this particular journey, I was initially called through dreams, and then subsequently, and there was maybe another dozen dreams that happened. All of them turned out to be prophetic, and they all came true, just not in the context, you know, how miraculous dreams could be. So they didn't happen quite that miraculously on the physical, but the very essence of what the dream was, they all came true. They all happened. And after being given a blessing by one of the Katu's seers, his name is Samuel Kamitha, in a very short period of time, I received the transmission of the Eden template. And transmissions come really quick. They're almost instantaneous. And then you get to unpack them. You get to watch them open to see what it is. So the transmission came, and it was very detailed. It was very specific. And then upon returning back to the States from Kenya, I spent the next 3 months sitting in my living room staring out the window. My next door neighbor was convinced that I'd had a psychotic break. So much so that they actually contacted a psychiatrist in New York they were so concerned, and then they had said, yes, he needs to get into treatment right away. And my response was just to laugh, saying, you don't have a clue here, because everything is fine. It just took that long to be able to work with and to be able to integrate the energies of what had come, both from what I received from Samuel the seer, and also both from the Eden template, and they're completely related. So the Eden template at its core is an opening of the what I would refer to as the source connection point at the base of your spine that's just been choked off. It's just been closed down as the result of our overall incarnational stream. And then it's moving the energy from that point. Once it's been awakened, it's moving the energy up through your central column and establishing a vertical toroidal field, getting that going to where it is running constantly, and then also opening your heart field in front of you. And the meditation of doing this, even though it's a guided meditation and it has imagery and verbalness with it, it really just corresponds to neural channels that already are in you, whether they're open or not, whether they're choked off or not, whether they're closed down, whether they're completely dysfunctional. It doesn't matter. It begins to awaken that. And the overall process, as it begins to work through you, it's more like a crystalline seed that gets activated inside your heart. And as that seed begins to grow, it pulls you into alignment physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And not just in those bodies, but all the bodies. It begins to align them, and that alignment becomes finer and finer and finer. There's less wiggle room to be able to run around. And you end up not wanting to run around because you want that degree of purity that comes with it, because that's where all the juiciness is. And it will it does have an effect on people in that it will begin to challenge you. It will begin to challenge your beliefs, what you think is true, what you don't think is true. It will begin to bring up cellular debris or distortions or trauma or fractured parts of us. It'll begin to bring them up so that you can feel them and reclaim them, and in some cases let them go, release them. So it's not just okay, you're awake. It's, yeah, you're awake, but you still have some homework to do. So I famously have said that I had a pretty strong awakening moment back in 2011, and I went, oh God, this is wonderful. I don't have to clean up all of that stuff. It took me about 2 minutes to be dissuaded. I still have to do it. I still have to do it. While still at the same time, I feel it's important to mention that we never know when grace is going to come. Grace comes to us unbidden. It's unasked for, but it appears when it appears. And if it does, it changes everything. So having said all of that about all of your stuff, that does not preclude that grace will not completely come to you and change everything. Sorry about, I forgot to shut off Facebook, so Messenger's pinging me.
So that was, you've been, just remind me, when you were in Kenya, what year was that? That was in 2018. And how soon after that did you start offering the Eden template process?
Give me a second. It was about 3 months of doing that particular work, and then I got the message that it's time to go public and be out there. I got some really good advice, which is don't go too fast. Work on yourself. If you the advice was, I know you want to get out there. You're really excited to share this with people. The urging was to spend more time just working on myself, cleaning up inside. So if you go out there now, everybody's going to see who you are, and you're just going to be another clown out on the stage performing. and you'll fall flat on your face, which would have been true. I wasn't ready, but at the same time needed to start taking steps. So I built a website, and I then started to have to talk about myself, which is one of the most difficult things that we can do, is to talk about ourselves. It's easy to talk about others or to work with others, but to talk about ourselves, that sometimes is difficult. And I got some really sage advice also, that just, why don't you just start offering sessions and see what it is, what comes through you. So I did free sessions for maybe 3-4 months, and then I continued to do sessions for other people on a donation basis, and just let them tell me what their experience was like. Well, I also got to experience what it was. Started doing the offering the Eden template. That didn't happen. That's been 2 years last October, a year before last October. And I've been doing it pretty much every month ever since, in addition to other classes. There's now 3 phases to the Eden template, plus the 8, which is now a 9-week course that I'm offering, which is Freedom from the Known, which is a deep dive. It's a deep journey into being activated, and also clearing. So,
just making some notes as we.
so maybe 2.5 years that I've been offering the activation.
Yeah. And from the beginning, has it evolved, or has it pretty much stayed as it was when you first started offering it?
Let's say that the general framework is there, but it has evolved exponentially. It was just the initial transmission. Now there's 3 of them. There's actually a 4th, but it's nonverbal currently. I don't know how I would even begin to be able to teach it to somebody else. They have all come through dreams. Well, the first one came as a waking transmission, but the others have come through dreams, and they've evolved into distinct classes that I'm able to share and teach what it is, and be able to walk people through that particular portion of the activation. But every single one is different, because when I'm doing it within the context of a group, then the group has its own energy, just like the group of all of the people that are here. And thank you, everybody, for being here today, because your energy is pulling things through me, just in the same way that your questions will pull energy through me. So in the context of doing the activation, whoever shows up, they bring a group field that becomes cohesive, that forms around them, and that pulls something through, and it's unique every single time. The general framework may be the same, but the nuances are constantly shifting.
So it feels different to you each time you do it.
Every time.
And so if someone were just to do phase 1 and not do 2 and 3, what would be the difference? Like, yeah, tell me more about 2 and 3 as well.
It would be like getting a high school diploma and then going to college and maybe getting an advanced degree. Is the only difference. You're quite welcome to stop at high school, and that's okay. And if you want to take a deeper dive and you want more, then it's available. So the second activation is a very fine, very detailed cleansing of the energy system, the central column, and the 7 energy centers that are on the column. So we go through and we clean up any minute distortions that are found in those channels. We do them one at a time. And then where the 2 side nerves and the central column come together, then we work on adjusting in really fine detail the magnetics of those two streams, because there's an intermixing that happens where the 3 channels come together. And just like if you're have one of those great big overseas radios that if you're tuning to a station, you know, on the other side of the world, that until you get it just perfect, there's distortion. Once you get it perfect, everything comes through nice and clear. In the same way, we adjust the magnetics of both of the nerves, working on just finding that perfect polarity that's there, and then whoosh, the energy stream is optimized. We do that all the way through. I also do an exercise with people to balance their left and right hemispheres. When that's complete, that's a little bit more elaborate. More than that, I don't want to say. I'd rather do it in context of the actual activation. In level 3, we do a little bit of a science presentation. I do a little bit of a science presentation on energy frequencies and how they work, especially how they work in terms of a collective. What is in the difference between an open system and a closed system, and how the energy will move or not move, as the case may be, in an open or a closed system. We also talk about working with harmonic overtones in order to raise the collective frequency that's around us. And then we do there is an energy center in every single one of the vertebrae in your spine. And we go through and we cleanse each one of those centers, just so that there's no stickiness or old sludge, whatever might, you know, we just forgot to do our recycling and do house cleaning every now and then. It's just another way of going deeper and cleaning the overall energy field that is with us. And each time as you do these practices, as you align with them, it becomes easier and easier to do them. And at the same time, it becomes more stable. So that if you've done like the first level several times and you learn how to set up your toroidal fields and get them working, then every day if you just check in, pretty soon you discover they're always running. And it's just a natural organic part of who you are.
Amazing. So what you were saying, let me see if I can, you said it so beautifully. Let's see if I can reshare that. So you were saying the 2 points, the magnetic, was that per chakra? The two streams of energy and the magnetic points, and getting those just right?
You could call it that. I don't like to use those words. I don't like to use known words, so I call it the central column.
Right.
In the energy centers. The moment that you mention that word, everybody has heard it, studied it, knows what it is or thinks they know what it is, and has a practice around what it is, what color it is, what frequency it is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the moment that you use that word in the context of doing this, it goes inside a box and it doesn't come out. So I try not to use any of those words, because if I use neutral, energy neutral, or associative neutral verbiage, then it doesn't go into a box, and then there's just the experience of what it is. So the side nerves are actually not side nerves. They are, but they are also not. They are something else.
I find this intriguing. And when you're doing that, so how does it work for you? Do you have like a collective impression of, because you've got a group of people, presumably you're not tuning into each individual, presumably there's like a collective feeling for you of when you're good to go and move to the next one?
Most of the time, overall, it is feeling the group. You are correct, but yet at the same time, you can't go faster, or at least I can't go faster than the slowest person is moving. Mm-hmm. So what I end up doing is that I hold the container for everybody to be able to work in, and I just know, without knowing, you just know, okay, everybody's ready to move. And
Yeah.
occasionally, not always, it is very rare, but occasionally within the context of a group that I know the participants, I have to know them, or at least so far, I get information that such and such is experiencing something. And I know who it is. I oftentimes will comment that somebody is feeling anxious, or there's some anxiety, or somebody's solar plexus is contracting, which means that they're in a little bit of fear or something on the order. I don't have to know who it is, but I am able to feel that that is happening within the group field. I'll usually comment because commenting on it brings it to the surface and it helps it relax.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so we were talking a little bit before we started about the pain body, and I was feeling into this yesterday and feeling into how I could kind of word this question, because sometimes you do hear that term, the pain body, and I was kind of questioning myself, is it how, like, what does that look like? What does that feel like? Is it almost like a body of energy within the physical body? And that was almost what I came to. Not that it was like outside the body, because at first I almost had an impression of it almost being a layer outside the body. But then I was like, no, that doesn't feel right, because it permeates. It feels to me like it permeates the entire body, the entire physical body. How do you see the pain body, or is there anything that you can share?
There is, and understand, just because I have an awareness of what it is, does not mean that you don't have an awareness of what it is, and they can be completely different, and they're both valid. It's not that one is true and the other is untrue. It's just we all have different ways of feeling and seeing and sensing. So for me, the pain body, in order to really understand it, you need to go larger in terms of your feeling and understanding that you are not just this physical body here. This is not your only life. You have an immense, everybody has an immense incarnational stream, and they're all happening right now, every single one of them. There are artificial constructs that we call space and time, and they are separated from each other so that they don't bleed into this one. But at one level, they're constantly feeding information, because this is the lifetime that we're using to become self-realized. And so we're pulling from the vastness of our incarnational stream, we're pulling that information here. So the collectivism of our stream, of the pain that we have encountered, whatever it might be, whether it was pain that we did or pain that was done to us, it doesn't really matter. I view it or feel it as an overlay that is in the field of the physical body, but it interpenetrates to the physical, to where it has connections to localities. And just like other overlays that are on there, they're hyper-inflamed, if you will, and so the places in that pain body, they correspond to various neural channels within us. And when something happens that triggers us, it sets something off, and all of a sudden we have a pain here in our shoulder or in an elbow or whatever it is, or it gets our nerves being really hyperactive. So it's firing on automatic pilot, if you will. It has nothing to do with we're doing something consciously to make ourselves to feel pain, and this can be physical, emotional, or mental. Or spiritual angst. It doesn't matter, because they all correspond to someplace within the entirety of our being, and it's all interconnected. There's no separation anywhere in it, and it's something that definitely can be removed. it is an overlay, and as a consequence, it can be removed. And a lot of that is dependent upon your willingness to let it go. Some people wear their pain like a badge of honor. Look how much I've suffered. No, I'm sorry. As they say, pain will, as the Buddhists say, pain will come, but suffering may come. But suffering is optional.
Thank you.
So the pain body is more personal. Like I also do exercises to remove the fear body, and that one is more. It has less personal association to us or for us. The fear body, when we're born, we as children, we come in undifferentiated. We're absolutely pure, and we immediately imprint on the electrical fields of our parents, of our mother and fathers, and that now becomes part of our field. And in inheriting that, we also inherit the electrical fields of their parents, of our grandparents and our great grandparents, and just going back. That's just a familial line. Then there's also a national line, the country that we're born in, or the cultural line that we're born in, et cetera, et cetera. So those are a less personal and more just this huge inheritance of collective fear that is coming at us. And it's all just smoke. It's all just smoke. It just disappears when you remove it.
Wow. So what do you think is happening? Is there like a planetary fear body? Would you say, or is it?
There's a collective aspect, but it exists in layers. So we have one personally, our nuclear family, our parents. There's another layer into it, and then the familial line that we come through. And depending upon how clean that line was, it can be pretty clean, or it can be extremely horrific. You know, if your line was just a line of serial killers, it would just be horrific. I'm not saying anybody out there has a line composed of serial killers. Please don't misunderstand me. It's just a crude example. And I mean, there's a lot of fear that is projected out at us nationally. Fear is a wonderful thing to keep people separate. And you know, I mean, we're almost constantly at odds collectively, nationally, with another country, with another race, with another culture, with another religion, and all of that is just smoke and mirrors. It doesn't exist. Yes, there are racial differences, but so what? We're all still one. This is just the diversity of, diversity is so fun. So.
Thank you. That's I love what you said about both of those, especially because I've worked with my own pain body for so long. It's really interesting to hear that perspective on it. I'm quite intrigued by that. So if someone has a session from you, what do you do in your sessions? I mean, I know it's going to be individually tailored, but what could someone perhaps expect from a session?
Yeah. So in personal sessions, I never have a clue what's going to happen. It's not unusual. The way that my energy field is built, that when you personally give me permission to connect with you, and it requires that permission, because I don't intrude into somebody's field. And then if you give me that permission, then I am able to feel what you're feeling, even if you are not aware of it. I can feel it in my body. And as that attunement begins to link up between us, then let me qualify by saying that I'm not a healer. I cannot heal anybody. I can't fix you. I can't do anything remotely like that. If I could, that would mean that I believe that I have the the ability to know best what is your soul path and to override it. Because I have no idea if whatever condition that you are experiencing is not part of your soul path, and that you're supposed to be walking this to come to a certain realization. It's not in my power, nor do I want it to be in my power to be able to change that. Within that context, though, what happens is that my field begins to it begins to work in activation with yours, and whatever you've got inside of you that is a distortion or is trauma that is ready to, and I stress the words ready, that is ready to surface and be felt by you, then it will begin to surface. Sometimes it's one thing, sometimes it's a whole bunch of things. Lately, it's been a whole bunch of things. People have had 5 or 6 things all at the same time, and they've been interrelated to each other. So we work with them that way. And then what I do, even though I can't do this for you, I can guide you. Like I can walk you through the process of whatever it is that's coming up, because the information always is there. It's always there. And even though it may be, not that it always will be, but it may be uncomfortable, I urge people to, whatever is surfacing, to feel it. The story that may go along with it, completely irrelevant. It really is. It has no, it's just another story. I have my stories, you have my, everybody has a story. And it's not about the story, it's about the trapped feeling, the fractured off part of you that you have not been able to feel that before, that is surfacing. And if you go into it and feel it all the way to its depths, and I mean all the way to its depths, no matter how comfortable or uncomfortable it might be, sometimes that includes a lot of crying. Sometimes that includes out and out sobbing and yelling and screaming in order for somebody to be able to finally get it up and express it out. And I always encourage everybody to just feel free to express it whatever way that it is. Once you feel it all the way to the bottom, to where there's nothing left to feel, it lets go. It lets go and just releases. And then new light comes in, that creates an empty space. We deal with that energy respectfully. We return it to source. And then new light comes in. Normally it's translucent golden, but sometimes other colored rays come in, and it fills all of the places where whatever it was that you removed from you were located. And it repatterns them, restores the original patterning of your blueprint, of your soul blueprint. So it is healing, but I'm not the one that is doing the healing. You, if you're doing a session, you're the one that's doing the work. And as a consequence, it holds. So I was trained as a healer, I was trained as a psychic surgeon, and I can do those things. But what I noticed is that it never held. Because it's me attempting to override somebody's pattern. If you're the one that's doing it, you're the one that is doing it, and therefore you have your full permission to be able to heal yourself and be able to release that energy and then fill yourself with something brand new. And it holds.
Wow. There's so much energy coming in through my crown at the moment, like just, listening, listening to everything that you're saying. It's like this weight is pressing down on my head.
If you ever see shaman or priests or whoever that wear a scarf over their head, that's exactly why they wear a scarf over their head, is because the energy presses on them. It doesn't mitigate it or stop it, but it makes it easier to be able to do the transition.
Because I'm hearing every word that you're saying, but I'm also feeling the energy in the space between the words as well. So I will.
Thank you for that. That's one of the big things that I talk about a lot, is the space between things and that deep stillness that is there.
And there's just so much more going on than your actual words, than than the conversation. There's so much more of a transmission, or whatever word you would use, going on.
True. And this is a transmission for you.
Yeah. I think it'll be good for me to re-listen to this, and I'm trying to take notes as I go, because when I put this on YouTube, I've put a description on there, and at the end of a conversation, I'm like, I don't really remember anything that's been said, so I try and make notes. But I think this is definitely going to be one of those. Okay, so the first phase 1 of the Eden template is this Saturday, and I know it's 8 p.m. here in BST, so that's 12 o'clock where you are.
Excuse me, noon specific.
And it's a couple of hours.
Maybe. I set aside 2 hours just in case. I never know how many people are going to come, and so I afterwards I really like people to talk, because if you can begin to verbalize, you're beginning to come back into your body again. I don't want to leave people just floating, because I don't know what comes next for them. Do they have to get in a car and drive someplace? No, I want them to be grounded in their body so they can actually function. If they need to be able to function, and if there's a lot of people, that takes a little bit of time. But the activation itself is 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm. And I've put the link to that part of your website. I've put that in the post as well with this.
And might I say that the first level activation I offer as a pay what you can, what you feel donation. It's readily available to anybody. If normally it's $55 for an energy exchange, but if you don't have that, then come for free. It's okay. It's more important that you show up.
Yeah, thank you for that. And your sessions, do you do the sessions online?
It depends. Most of them in the US, I do them by over the phone. If people are international, sometimes that becomes difficult, so we do Zoom calls.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really matter. I don't need the visual like we have now.
Mm-hmm.
All I need is just to be able to momentarily feel a person and be able to connect with them. That's all that's needed.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I will use WhatsApp or Viber or any one of the other internet calling apps if people want to do that. Excuse me.
And your website, is it www? Is it Eden Template after that?
The Eden Template.
The Eden Template. I'll make sure that's in the comments as well. And .com?
.com, yes. Excuse me.
Yeah, there's something going on with the throat. I think I might have a little drink as well. Just bear with us. There we go. So what else have you got coming up?
Right away, nothing. I'm currently teaching the Freedom from the Known class. It's our third weekend this coming Saturday before the first level. I will this month schedule the second level Eden Template activation. I'll be doing the level 1 class every month for the rest of the year, probably for as long as I know, or the foreseeable future, whatever the foreseeable future means. But I know that I'll schedule the level 2 class either for May or June. I like to do them at least once a quarter to be able to give, because not everybody that does just the level 1 wants to do the level 2. I'd much rather have 20 people there or 30 people there than 5.
Yeah.
It's not about the attendance is about the energy of the people. The more people there are, the bigger the energy field.
Mm-hmm.
And the more potent it is as it works through with everybody, because everybody is able to ride on the energy that is generated within the group. So what one person clears is available to everybody else in that particular group.
Yeah, nice. And do you recommend leaving a certain space between them?
At least a week, if not
Yeah.
longer. But if you're just coming to the classes, you don't have much choice, because I haven't offered level 2 yet this year. So. And I think I've done 4 level 1s so far.
And tell me more about the freedom from the known, please.
Freedom from the known is, if you really want to deep dive into source, you have to step out of what it is that you know, because what it is that you know and you're absolutely certain of is what's standing in front of you, and you need to walk through it. You need to walk past it. So everything that you believe, everything that you think is true or that you thought was true, that's just something that you believe. That doesn't make it reality. Look at the vast number of beliefs that are on the planet. Look at the way religion is set up. That, oh my God, I was born in this country and I'm a Christian, or I was born in this country and I'm a Muslim, or I'm Jewish, or I'm Buddhist, or whatever it might be. And people become convinced that, oh, I'm on the right side. Well, there is no wrong side to be on. We are all one being. So the Freedom from the Known course is a deep dive into activations. Like all 3 of the Eden template activations are in there. The removing the fear body, the pain body, the lack body, and then doing some deep integration. So we kind of go on we activate and we clear. So we're constantly doing like a sine wave where we're activating everybody in the group, and then we're going through and cleaning up the stuff and activating. I also make everybody in the group gets at least 1 free session to help them if they need help with clearing or with integration or whatever it is. And then we end up taking some very, very deep journeys directly to source. And it's really fabulous. I've only taught it once. This is the 2nd time that I've taught it that's happening now. And I'm still convinced that I learned more teaching it the first time than any of the participants. They might disagree with me on that statement, but not from my perspective. I learned so much about how to be with the group and how to be able to share this. And basically, it's let's just say it's a very deep dive into aligning yourself with who you really are and you always have been, and just peeling off the veneers, the layers of it. There's an analogy that I used one time was sprint car racers here in the States, that they race on dirt. Sometimes it's mud, and their helmets have these tearaway strips on their visors, and we're just constantly removing these layers that are in between us and who we really are.
And so how often, is it every week that you do the Freedom from the Known?
Well, it's an 8-week course. Only now it's become a 9-week course.
Yeah.
And I offer it once a quarter. And so that gives me a little bit of a break between classes, and then we start up again. So I'll offer it again 2 more times this year.
Mm-hmm. So it's consecutive weeks.
Yes.
Yeah. And is that what time of day do you do that?
Well, currently it's at 9 a.m., but 9 a.m. Pacific, which would be 8 hours before your time.
Yeah.
And I did that mostly because everybody last time was predominantly from Europe. And so I switched it also to make it a little more comfortable for me. But that made it really uncomfortable, almost impossible for the people in Australia.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's an ideal time that works for everybody, except that it just is. So I'll probably go back to 11 o'clock Pacific the next time, just to help make it easier for people from the Far East, from New Zealand, Australia, and Asia.
Yeah. And it depends on the time of year as well, whether it's from, like at the moment, Australia's 9 hours ahead, but over our winter they're 11. So that can make a big difference as well. Sometimes it's easier at certain times of year to grab everybody.
And there are multiple ways that international countries handle quote unquote daylight savings times.
Yeah.
They don't always switch on the same day. And so last time there was a couple of classes we had to redo because nobody knew that Portugal had a completely different day to run their daylight savings than the U. I didn't know. I had no idea. So daylight savings time is kind of ridiculous, but it's. I love the Native Americans' expression about it. Only a white man would be silly enough to think that you can cut a foot off the top of a blanket, sew it to the bottom, and end up with a blanket that's a foot longer. It doesn't happen.
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Mostly, I'm during this entire conversation, I'm feeling the people that are here. And I want to thank you for being here. And I want to convey, I would love to convey one thing to you, and that is no matter how broken you think you are or you might be, you're not. No one is broken. I don't care what the outer appearances might be. I don't care how much angst you may be in around anything or everything. You're not broken. You never have been. There's never anything that you can do or have been able to do, no matter how horrific it may have been. And trust me, over the course of our incarnational streams, we have all done the most horrific things possible, imaginable to each other, and had them done to us. There's nothing that any of us have ever done that hasn't been immediately forgiven. Because remember who you are. You are the one. You are the source. You are the creator. You are God. That is who you always have been. There has not been 1/1,000,000,000th of a millisecond in your journey that you have not been connected to source, to the creator. It has not happened. We just forgot. And we put some shields up, put some layers in front of our eyes, little energetic cataracts, if you will. And now we're in that wonderful time where we get to remember. And the energy is here to remember, and it is yours, and it is here to serve you. So know how blessed you are.
Beautiful.
And thank you all for being here with us today. I can't see the screen that Denise has in front of her because I can't look at it at the same time. But I feel your presence, and I'm really grateful that you're here.
Yeah, same. Thank you, everybody. And I'm not even sure if I said your name at the beginning, and if I didn't, I apologize, David Maria. But it has been an absolute pleasure.
See, if you look right there, it says my name right there. Sorry, Denise. It has been such a pleasure to be here with you. I've enjoyed this immensely, and I look forward to doing it again with you sometime too.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I would love that. Do you ever kind of go through a process online, because that might be something to do, like not to do anything of your course, but
there's always something that will come through. Yes.
Beautiful.
Even if it's just something as simple as at the beginning of this,
Yeah.
where we just attune with each other.
Yeah.
But yes, there's always something. I have taught removal of the fear body and the pain body and the lack bodies in short little vignettes on Facebook Live with Wanda Vitale in the past. Her and I did a masterclass series where we went through and just did that work very quickly. It's not as deep a dive as going through an actual course, and my personal preference is to do it in the context of a course, because there's additional support that is happening.
Yeah.
If you just come to a Facebook Live and I don't know who you are, and I never meet you, and you have difficulties, I have no way of being able to be of assistance to you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Denise. This has been such a pleasure. I have enjoyed myself immensely.
And thank you to everybody who's been present with us while we're here in this now moment on the live. And thank you to everyone who's joining us on the replay and also on YouTube. And the YouTube channel is Inner Peace with Denise. All the Love Speaks Love videos are on there with a few more things. I'm being guided to do some transmissions about fairies at the moment and connecting with the elementals. So I'm starting a bit of a series of those on YouTube as well. So, and thank you everybody for all the support, for sharing the videos along, and for contributions on PayPal as well. And I will leave my PayPal in the comments. And I really, the pull for me was, it was unquestionable for this Saturday. I just knew that it was absolutely right for me to be there. And I feel, yeah, if not for this one, if people catch it later, but I feel it feels really key. So thank you for offering this. And I really look forward to being with you on Saturday.
As I look forward, I'm actually very excited about this one. And if you resonate with any of the conversation that's happened today, please join us. It's fabulous. and I look forward to being with all of you and sharing. Thank you.
Wonderful. Denise. Thank you, my dear. I'm going to stop the live stream now. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.